bottle trembled in my grasp, its amber contents sloshing as my fingers tightened around the neck of that cheap whiskey. My steadfast companion through 3 years of shadowed solitude. The apartment, a cramped sanctuary perched above the endless Pacific, seemed to shrink with each passing day, its walls inching inward as if to smother the memories I could not escape. From my window, the horizon stretched toward a point where everything had unraveled, where the ocean had revealed its true, terrifying nature. Once, I was the Navy's finest sonar technician, a man who could decipher the deep's cryptic symphony. 12 years of service, countless missions, and a reputation for hearing the unhearable. Now, the sound waves I once mastered haunt me, echoing in every drip of the shower, every creak of the floorboards. The whiskey burns as it slides down my throat, a fleeting balm against the ceaseless ringing in my ears, a relic of pressures no human should endure. I set the glass down, my gaze drifting to the wall adorned with framed certificates. Distinguished Service Medal, Navy Achievement Medal, Expert Submarine Warfare Pin. They belonged to a man who believed the ocean's mysteries could be tamed by science and steel. A man who died 3 years ago in the Mariana Trench, alongside 23 of the finest sailors I ever knew. The official report was a sterile lie, catastrophic equipment failure during routine training exercises. The USS Connecticut, a marvel of naval engineering, suffered multiple hull breaches at depth, claiming most hands before an emergency ascent could save them. Clean, simple, complete. But I was there. I heard the unearthly sounds reverberating through the water, saw what no human was meant to witness. The Navy didn't send us for training. They sent us hunting, dispatched to confront something ancient and unknowable lurking in the abyss. Something that had been broadcasting signals from the ocean's deepest recesses, signals that defied every database, every textbook. My hands shook as I lifted the glass again, the ice rattling a grim accompaniment to the tremors that began the day they hauled me from a life raft. 3 years of therapy, medication, and forced retirement have done little to still them. Dr. Martinez, my well-meaning therapist, called it a trauma response, my nervous system still grappling with the unimaginable. He'd never been 40,000 feet below the surface when something the size of a small island turned its gaze upon us. I tried to tell him, tried to describe the sonar readings that twisted logic, the sounds of living tissue where rock should have been, the intelligence behind that massive eye that pierced our hull as if it were glass. He nodded, scribbled notes, but his eyes betrayed him. He thought the pressure had fractured my mind, that I'd spun elaborate delusions to cope with survivor's guilt. Perhaps he's right. Perhaps I am mad. But madness doesn't explain why the Navy shuffled me from base to base, facility to facility, ensuring I never lingered long enough to speak to the wrong ears. Madness doesn't account for the disappearance of my crewmates, Tyler Foster and Brandon Lee, vanished into the military medical labyrinth, transferred at every attempt to reach them. And madness certainly doesn't justify the non-disclosure agreements I signed. Documents so classified that reading them demanded security clearances beyond most admirals. I pressed my palm against the cool glass of the window. The Pacific sprawled below, deceptively tranquil in the afternoon light. Somewhere out there, 1,000 miles west, the water plunges deeper than most can fathom. Deep enough to conceal entities that have slumbered since before humanity carved its first boat. The government knew they were down there. That's why they sent us. For 3 years, I've fought to forget, to forge a semblance of normalcy in San Diego, pretending to be just another veteran wrestling with adjustment issues. I took a job at a marine supply store, selling navigation gear to weekend sailors who see the ocean as a playground. I chose this apartment for its view away from the harbor, hoping the open water might rekindle a love I once held. Instead, it reminds me daily that the world is a far darker place than we've been led to believe. The whiskey bottle grows light, the shadows lengthening as I sit, lost in thought for hours, as I do most afternoons. I wonder if today will be the day I break my silence, not to a therapist or a debriefing officer, but to someone who might listen, who might believe that the USS Connecticut wasn't felled by equipment failure. We were murdered, sacrificed, fed to an entity that thrives where pressure should reduce all life to paste. The Navy had tracked those signals for years, perhaps decades, and finally deemed us expendable to make contact. They never intended for us to return. The glass is empty now. When did that happen? And the bottle nears its end. Dr. Martinez would disapprove, but he never watched his friends perish as something city-sized stirred beneath us in the crushing dark. The apartment falls silent, save for the distant hum of traffic and voices from the street below. That silence mirrors the terrible quiet before our doom. The moment our sonar revealed an impossibility rising from the ocean floor, defying every manual I'd studied. I need to tell someone, not to alter the past, but because 23 souls deserve more than to be dismissed as mechanical casualties. Perhaps the whiskey has loosened my tongue enough to be honest about that mission, about the horrors we unearthed in the deep, and why only 3 of us survived to see the surface again. If I'm to do this, I'll start at the beginning, when I still believed the Navy was sending us to shadow Chinese submarines, when the deepest threat I imagined was maintaining our stealth. It was a Tuesday morning in October, 3 years ago, when I passed through the gates of Naval Base Point Loma. The salt air stung my face, crisp and invigorating, and I felt a surge of belonging after 12 years of service. I was bound for the USS Connecticut, a Seawolf-class submarine, the pinnacle of underwater warfare. Her technology represented the cutting edge, and they wanted me, Michael Thompson, sonar expert, to be her ears in the deep. My duffel bag swung lightly on my shoulder as I crossed the base toward the submarine piers, packed with the efficiency of a seasoned sailor for what Captain Walker described as a 2-week intelligence operation. Standard fare: track Chinese submarine movements in the South China Sea, gather signal intelligence, remain invisible. I'd run similar missions dozens of times on older boats, but the Connecticut was different. 353 feet of nuclear-powered stealth, her black hull gleaming with fresh paint even at rest. Checking in with the duty officer, I boarded, navigating corridors that felt pristine, a stark contrast to the weathered vessels I'd known. The sonar compartment, forward of the control room, housed the IN/BQQ-5 sonar suite, a marvel of displays and processing units I'd only seen in manuals. Passive arrays promised to detect engine signatures from hundreds of miles, signal processors classifying contacts with inhuman speed. This was my calling, the chance to push the boundaries of underwater perception. Impressive, isn't it? A voice broke my reverie. David Rodriguez stood in the doorway, toolbox in hand, a technical manual tucked under his arm. We'd served together on the USS Hampton years prior, and I knew him as an engineer who could coax life from broken systems. "Dave, good to see you," I said, stepping aside. "Just getting acquainted with our new toys." "Wait until you see what these arrays can pick up," he replied, setting his toolbox down. "Sensitivity readings are off the charts. We might hear a shrimp fart at 50 miles. I laughed, already envisioning the tactical possibilities. With this equipment, we could map Chinese submarine schedules undetected. Dave began his pre-deployment inspection, scanning the processing units. "Met Captain Walker yet?" I asked. "Not yet. Briefings at 1400. He's been wound tight," Dave said, running his scanner, checking depth ratings and pressure tolerances more than usual. That piqued my interest. Pre-mission nerves were common, but experienced captains didn't obsess over engineering specs unless something specific loomed. "Deep water stuff mostly," Dave added. "How far down we can go, what stresses the hull can take." I filed that away, wondering if Walker anticipated scenarios beyond standard intel gathering. The morning passed in a blur as I familiarized myself with the Connecticut systems. The sonar suite exceeded expectations, response times in milliseconds, processing power that isolated signatures with near-perfect accuracy, range and sensitivity opening new tactical doors. I was calibrating the passive arrays when Kevin Mitchell found me. Mitch, our navigator, approached his role with the precision I brought to sonar. We'd overlapped at Naval War College, and I trusted his ability to plot through minefields. "Thompson, right?" he said, though we both knew he remembered me. "How's the sonar suite looking?" "Like Christmas morning," I replied, watching ambient sound data populate the displays. "I can hear harbor traffic from the pier. Navigation systems are flawless," Mitch said. "GPS and inertial guidance calibrated to a centimeter. This boat could navigate months without surfacing." He paused, eyeing the sonar displays. Mission brief says we'll stay shallow, South China Sea. Fewer thermal layers to complicate things. I nodded, but his expression hinted at unease. Walker asked me to plot unusual waypoints yesterday, further south than expected. Before I could probe, the intercom crackled. All hands, department heads and section leaders to the wardroom. The wardroom, larger than I was accustomed to, buzzed with 15 department heads and senior petty officers. Captain Walker stood at the head, a stack of folders before him, a Western Pacific chart on the bulkhead. Taller than I'd imagined, with graying hair and a uniform pressed to razor-sharp creases. He exuded authority, but tension radiated from him, his jaw set, eyes scanning the room. "Gentlemen," he began, voice commanding, "what I'm about to tell you is classified at the secret level. Our mission will take us into the South China Sea for intelligence gathering against Chinese naval forces." He pointed to red pins marking the region between Vietnam and the Philippines. "Increased Chinese submarine activity over 6 months. Our job is to track patterns, identify procedures, and gather signal intelligence on communications." He outlined transit routes, emphasizing passive mode, minimal communications, and strict electromagnetic silence except for 48-hour check-ins. This was textbook track, gather, return. "Thompson," Walker said, locking eyes with me, "your sonar expertise will be critical. Identify and classify every contact, especially submarine signatures not matching known Chinese vessels." "Understood, sir," I replied. "The Connecticut's arrays should provide excellent range and classification." He nodded, but a quick glance at his watch suggested more than routine focus. "Rodriguez detailed reports on engineering systems, hull integrity, and depth gauge accuracy," he continued. Dave nodded, puzzled by the specificity. "Mitchell, precise navigation with backup systems ready." The briefing stretched an hour, covering protocols and contingencies, all sounding routine. Yet Walker's delivery felt rehearsed, as if reading a script that masked deeper intent. After dismissing most, he asked me to stay. Alone with the chart and folders, he spoke lower. "Thompson, I reviewed your record, 12 years, expert sonar qualifications, commendations for detecting missed contacts." "Thank you, sir." He studied the chart. "This mission may require pushing your equipment beyond normal parameters. Are you prepared?" The question struck me as odd. Passive sonar operated continuously without stress, unless we plan deeper dives. "Sir, the suite is rated for all normal operations. What parameters concern you?" He checked his watch again, gathering folders. "Just be prepared. This patrol may not follow standard procedures." He left, leaving me with the chart and a gnawing sense that this mission hid more than Chinese submarines. Studying the red pins, I noticed southern coordinates near deep water drop-offs, thousands of feet beyond our norm. The Connecticut could dive deeper than most, but intel missions rarely demanded it. Back in the sonar compartment, Dave was still at work. "How'd the briefing go?" he asked. "Standard intel, track Chinese boats, stay invisible," I said, settling in. "Anything unusual?" I considered Walker's tension, his depth queries. "Captain seems more nervous than usual. New boat, new crew, hostile waters," Dave reasoned, closing an access panel. Logical, but it didn't ease the feeling Walker withheld critical details. The afternoon passed in preparations, equipment checks, inventory, until evening, when the Connecticut was ready. Her reactor hummed with quiet efficiency as I ran passive scans of the harbor, calibrating for optimal performance. Just before midnight, Walker ordered departure. I watched on sonar as we slipped into San Diego Bay, silent and undetected, embarking on what I believed would be routine. I had no inkling Walker had received orders to veer into depths where no submarine was designed to tread, hunting something tied to signals from the abyss. 2 days in, we'd settled into the rhythm of deep water operations, the Connecticut gliding through international waters with predatory silence. Then a message notification flashed on my terminal, encrypted with unfamiliar security protocols. Decoded, it read, "Report to Captain Walker immediately. Bring no materials or documentation." Securing my station, I navigated to his quarters behind the control room. Walker sat at a narrow desk, studying navigation charts on a tablet, his uniform impeccable despite 2 days at sea. "Close the door, Thompson," he said, his tone neutral. I complied, standing at attention. He set the tablet down. "We've received new orders from Naval Intelligence. Mission parameters have changed. A mid-patrol shift was rare. Typically, plans were ironclad unless something seismic occurred." "Sir, what kind of change?" He picked up a message form. "We're not going to the South China Sea. We're to investigate an anomaly in the Mariana Trench." My eyebrows lifted. The trench was hundreds of miles south, far deeper than any intel mission I'd known. "What kind of anomaly, sir?" "Information comes from John Harrison, a superior whose authority overrides our original mission. I have only coordinates and orders to use our sonar capabilities." The name Harrison was unfamiliar, suggesting he operated beyond standard naval chains. "Sir, I don't know that name." "His position?" Walker's jaw tightened. "He works under Naval Intelligence. His orders are classified above my access. We follow without discussion." His tone hinted at discomfort, a gut feeling shared by seasoned commanders when missions veered into the unknown. "What are my responsibilities?" I asked. "Prepare sonar systems for extreme depth operations. Maximum sensitivity and range, focusing on anomalous signals not matching geological or biological signatures." I recalled the sweet specs, designed for deep water, but extreme depths complicated sound transmission and introduced interference. "Sir, how deep?" He read coordinates. "Approximately 35,000 feet below surface level." I processed that, deeper than Everest, beyond any submarine's safe limit. The Connecticut's hull had a safety margin, but 35,000 feet tested its absolute edge. "Captain, that's extremely deep. Are we certain of hull integrity?" "Rodriguez assures me the specs include a margin. We won't linger." I wanted to press about the anomaly, but Walker's demeanor signaled the discussion's end. "This is classified at absolute confidentiality. No crew beyond this room knows the mission's nature. If asked, we're pursuing a high-value intel target." "Understood, sir. I'll optimize sonar within 6 hours." I left, mind racing through recalibration needs, frequency adjustments, power outputs, signal processing for depths we'd never faced. Back in the compartment, I found Dave. "How's the sonar suite?" he asked. "Perfect so far. Need to discuss depth operations." "What's the Connecticut ceiling?" His expression sobered. "Officially, beyond tactical needs. Unofficially, I've run stress calculations since port, hull compression, pressure differentials, emergency ascent capabilities. Someone's planning to push us." I thought of Walker's coordinates. "What would you monitor?" "Everything: hull stress, pressure systems, ballast, life support." "Theoretical planning," I said, bound by secrecy. Dave nodded, unconvinced. "Theoretically, these boats handle extreme pressure, but acoustics, navigation, and emergency procedures falter under crushing depths. Recalibrate for pressure-induced distortion and thermocline effects. You might lose range." I noted the challenges, thanking him as he left. Alone, I began diagnostics, pondering Harrison's authority and the anomaly's nature. A course change signaled our southward turn toward the Pacific's depths, cover story in place. By evening, sonar was optimized, enhanced sensitivity, adjusted algorithms, displays flagging unusual contacts. Mitch found me at dinner, charts in hand, concerned. "We're heading to deep water, Mariana Trench, over 36,000 feet. That's beyond safe limits." I realized we neared Harrison's coordinates. "Maybe transiting to our patrol zone?" "Could be," he said, "but waypoints suggest loitering, investigating something specific." He pointed to isolated depths, far from shipping lanes. "Heard what we're looking for?" Bound by orders, I dodged. "Orders change. We'll know more when we arrive." Unhappy, he left with his charts. I ran final checks, the systems pristine, bracing for tomorrow's descent into the unknown. 12 hours later, Walker ordered a dive deeper than any in our fleet's history. I watched the depth gauge climb, 15,000 feet, 20,000, 25,000, pressure mounting against our hull. Sonar showed clear water, but I fine-tuned calibrations as sound transmission shifted in the denser medium. Hull stress approaching yellow zone. Dave reported, voice steady but edged. Continue descent, Walker ordered, monitoring the gauge. Creaks and pops emerged, our hull conversing with the abyss. At 30,000 feet, sonar remained empty, the void stretching miles below. Navigation drifting. Mitch announced, GPS weakening. At 32,000 feet, I recheck settings, the acoustic environment alien. Thompson, sonar picture? Walker asked. Clear water, sir. 7,000 feet above coordinates. He nodded, calculating. At 35,000 feet, Dave's voice sharpened. Hull stress in red zone, maximum safe depth. Walker's jaw tightened. Continue to 38,000. Reassess. Dave protested. That approaches hull limits. Structural compromise could prevent ascent. Noted. Continue. Past 36,000, creaks grew frequent, the hull groaning under unprecedented loads. At 37,000, I optimized arrays for peak performance. Then, at 38,000, a contact appeared. Contact, I called voice cracking. Bearing 270, range 2 miles, depth 40,000 feet. Walker leaned over. Classification, unknown, sir. Signature suggests living tissue, too large for any vessel or animal. Pulsing at 12-second intervals. Like a heartbeat, I added, hands trembling. Investigate closer, Walker ordered. Continue descent. Dave's alarm rose. Beyond safe limits risks failure. Determine the nature, Walker insisted. We angled downward, the pulsing intensifying, vibrating through the hull. Navigation malfunctioning, Mitch said. Compass erratic. Closer, the contact size, 3 miles long, too wide, defied belief. Glowing patterns pulsed, suggesting organized intelligence. At 40,000 feet, it ascended 500 feet per minute, displacement waves rocking us. Contact ascending, I reported, the shape expanding, its glow registering as acoustic events. Walker gripped my chair. How large? 3 miles by 2, extending beyond sonar range. Currents shifted, Dave noting anomalous patterns. The glow formed mathematical sequences, a language. At 20,000 feet, it halted, neutral buoyancy hinting at control. It stopped below us, I whispered. Then, an appendage rose, 400 feet wide, thousands long, approaching. Range decreasing rapidly, I said. Emergency ascent, Walker barked. Ballast tanks roared, but currents dragged us down. Ascent systems failing, Dave reported. The appendage brushed us, vibrations shaking the hull. An eye opened, stadium-sized, intelligent, studying us. Jesus Christ, Dave muttered. Contracted, pulling us deeper. Hull stress redlined, cracks sounding. Water seeped through seals, alarms blaring. Hull breaches, Dave cried, hydraulics failing. At 50,000 feet, a rupture flooded the torpedo room. Mitch screamed as water claimed him. Dave rushed, crushed by a collapsing bulkhead. I clung to my station, sonar showing the creature's vastness. Neural networks spanning trenches, an ecosystem unto itself. As I met mine, imparting knowledge of ancient watchers, entities predating humanity. At 90,000 feet, the final breach came, water flooding as lights died. I awoke in a life raft, pain racking my body, Coast Guard helicopters overhead. 6 rafts floated, 2 with motionless figures. Physics couldn't explain our survival. Rescued, I faced decompression injuries, medics dismissing my tale as narcosis. At Guam, a doctor noted my hallucinations. Transferred to San Diego, Commander Clark debriefed me, extracting technical data, binding me to silence with non-disclosure agreements. Discharged for psychological unfitness. I live with the truth. Humanity shares the planet with abyssal intelligences, and the Navy sacrifices crews to study them. The ocean hides its secrets, and I, alone, bear witness. Have you ever felt the weight of a truth too vast to share? Are you ready to peer into the abyss with me?